Hello, world, and welcome to our live stream. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Garrett.
And today we're going to be talking about Chaotic Flux, a dark sci-fi horror fantasy comic with writer Scott Payne. Hello, Scott, and welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Pretty awesome. Yeah, not too bad.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're from Texas, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I live in Galveston, Texas, so it's just about an hour south of Houston. Been here like 10 years or so. I think I'm going on 11 years now.
Oh, where'd you grow up?
Dallas area, actually Duncanville, which is just south of Dallas, like 20 minutes south of Dallas.
So Texas through and through.
Yeah, I mean I've been to other states, but lived in Texas my whole life.
Cool.
No, I take that back. I actually spent some time up north in the Philadelphia area for 6 months.
Closer to us, closer to our neck of the woods.
Oh, really? That's cool.
East Coast. Yeah, we're in Connecticut. So
okay, awesome.
Only a couple hours south of Philadelphia.
Just a few. A little bit closer than Texas. Yeah. So before we get into the campaign and everything and talking about Chaotic Flux, I like to ask people that, there's something very special about storytelling through sequential art. Mm-hmm, what is it about the medium of comic books that first captured your interest?
Well, I mean, definitely the visual, but to me, comic books versus like books or just traditional literature, there's a lot of fun and interesting things or ways you can play with it. I think with the in-betweens, in and outs between both the dialogue, the red dialogue, going along with the visual storytelling, and then of course the word effects. And then for me as a creator, as a writer, I love playing with those elements, trying different things, tweaking here and there, and then coming up with new ways to utilize it. It's a thrill actually doing all of this, and it's I didn't know how rewarding it would be as a writer before I started doing it. I mean, I knew it was going to be fun and interesting, and great making fans and all this, but just playing with the medium itself is fantastic. I highly recommend it to anyone who's thinking about getting into making comic books, because it really is an awesome ride.
So how did you get into comics? Are there other writers and artists that inspire you? Any particular?
Oh yeah, definitely. Early on when I was a kid, I say around 8 or so, I really started getting into the X-Men. I've always been a big X-Men fan. Particularly the 90s X-Men and Age of Apocalypse is one of my most favorite storylines.
Quick aside, who's your favorite X-Man?
That's a tough one. I know
it's a really tough one.
Wolverine. I love Wolverine. I love Colossus. I love Nightcrawler. I love Rogue. So
he's a Gambit aficionado.
Yeah, I love Gambit too. I mean, it's tough, man. And some of the villains, really like freaking Apocalypse, Magneto. It's hard to choose, man. Like between Magneto and Apocalypse, I cannot say which one I like more.
Well, I mean, we had Age of Apocalypse, and you saw the outcome of that. So I think we know which one I like more.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the '90s X-Men books were fantastic. I mean, the Claremont run was very good, but there was something about
Jim Lee's art, man.
Jeez. Yeah, Jim Lee. That one comic book is really what got me into comics, and the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man was the that was when I started collecting books. I was like, I want this,
same here.
and I want to keep it, and put it in a bag, and put it on a shelf. So that was definitely what got me. Are there any artists and writers around today that keep your interest in comics or that inspire you?
Mark Millar. I was a big fan of. I've been a big fan of his for a number of years. Loved his Old Man Logan storyline, and Wanted, Kick Ass. I'm excited for his because I know he went off and made his own independent company and has been building properties with that. And I know Netflix has bought the rights to all of his stuff and is trying to make movies and shows out of that. And I think the first one comes out in May or June. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be like. Let's see, Frank Miller. Who else?
That's a given. Yeah. If you like comic books as a medium, you love Frank Miller for the innovation, like you were saying, and what he's been able to do with the medium.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns, 300. I love that stuff. Sin City. Yeah, I actually Marv is one of my. I think he's one of the most interesting characters. Yeah. And let's see. I know Alan Moore doesn't really do anything anymore, but I'm a big fan of Watchmen. Actually, that's a pretty good influence. That book's a pretty good influence on the Chaotic Flux. Let's see what else. I like Deadpool a lot. No, I can't think of any particular writer on Deadpool, but I got a lot of Deadpool stuff. Batman. I like Scott. What's his name? Scott Snyder. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, his run of Batman was pretty awesome. And then one of my most favorite Batman stories too is Hush. And Jim Lee did the art for that. I think it's a fantastic book.
So you do like a little bit more darker themes, a little bit.
Yeah. Spawn. I love Todd McFarlane. Yep, I love Spawn.
He was the original edgelord in comics.
Yeah.
Right.
He was great though. Like he was the quintessential, one that kept it cool. Everyone that kind of came later.
Joe Mandarera.
Chains and spikes. Yeah.
Right. And Joe Mandarera with Battle Chasers. I'm a big fan of Battle Chasers. I wish that comic was longer than the few issues it did, but that's a fun book.
We're gonna have to look into that one and see if we can.
Yeah, it's a really great art, fantastic art, and actually, that book has just the word effects are really, really cool, really well done, and I've been trying to utilize that some in Chaotic Flux. The inspiration from that, trying to come up with new and wild ideas as far as word effects and make it stand out a little more
into the actual composition.
Yeah.
These
we were just talking about Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah, I think my current comic crush right now is Daniel Warren Johnson. The guy just released last month issue 1 of Beta Ray Bill, which is a character that I don't really have any connection to.
Right.
I'm aware of him, but
he's not a Beta Ray Bill fan. He doesn't really know.
Honestly, I'm not really a Thor fan either.
You are from the MCU though.
Yeah, the movies turned me around a little bit. But comic-wise, I've never been a big follower of Thor.
1 second, let me just say hello to Greg Levitt and Lucifer Storm in the chat. Good to see you guys.
But holy smokes, Daniel Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill #1.
Yeah, dude, it blew me away. We have a review
awesome.
coming up. I'm actually editing it.
And he also did Murder Falcon. He did Extremity, a bunch of things for like Image. And he always incorporates words and typography into his panels in ways that are just like awesome, like sounds that actually like
feel like they're part of the art.
And make you actually feel
they're not graphics. A lot of sound effects and word bubbles or the sound effects become graphics. They get overlaid on top of the art. They're fonts. These really feel more like art integrated into the backgrounds that are they're hand drawn in. They're definitely intentionally. We are getting flamed. We are being flamed in the chat by Greg Levitt. He has been sent on a mission by Tank Ferret.
Tank Ferret.
What's up, Tank Ferret?
Hey, what's up? Good to see you, Tank. Thanks for stopping by. We're under attack, guys.
You've been hit by the Tank Ferret crew.
We have. They came through. They tagged up the chat, and they're taking off. Don't you worry. We're gonna have to send some of our followers to retaliate. Lucifer, if you can hear me, Mr. Storm, go flame Tank's chat for us real quick, and then come back because we got some really cool stuff to talk about. So, the most exciting thing about making comics for you? Is it experimenting with the medium?
Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, a lot of that is that. I would say trying. I mean, yeah, experimenting with medium, but also bringing things out of myself that I mean, just starting out when I was starting out writing, and I had to test myself to see if I can actually, be a, pretty good writer. I had to sit down and learn how to write a script and see if I can write a good script. And then when I wrote that first script, and I was like, whoa, this is really good. I was like, I mean, I'm not trying to do my own horror or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I amazed myself that, like, okay, yeah, I made myself realize that, like, this is something I think I should do, but also just making, touching people with the stories and making fans, and in sharing my creativity with others is very rewarding. And then watching people's faces light up and be thrilled by my creations, it's extremely.
So it sounds to me like the most exciting thing for you about making comics is making comics. It's doing the thing that creates the product that affects people's lives.
So, actually, you might have this question already, but I'll just kind of go in because I'm interested. I mean, actually, to me, it sounds like you're just a storyteller.
Yeah.
And comics is an exciting venue that you've broken into, that you're learning to tell your craft there. Before you started making your own comics, was there any other things you did to tell stories? Did you do any role playing or?
Well, you want to find out about his background, yeah.
I mean, honestly, nerd things always
they do overlap.
Right. So. Well, I guess I always have to say, I'm a big gamer, but I particularly like games where I can, shape my character and their own story and the adventures they get into. So obviously, I'm a big RPG fan.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that aspect of those types of games, and I latch onto those a lot. But as far as like sitting down and like writing stories, other than building Chaotic Flux, I used to sit down and write little stories here and there, little like short stories and things, just ideas that I thought would make cool other comics. But other than that, that's mostly the extent of playing around with that, which I'm now expanding. Now that I've I'm growing my platform, I'm growing my brand. It's I'm experimenting more with writing stories, other than just Chaotic Flux. But yeah, no, for the most part, it was just mostly Chaotic Flux, and then some little things here on the side, and then my experimentation with video games.
That makes sense. Hello to
though.
Hockey in the chat.
Hey, Hockey.
Glad to see you. Yeah, piggybacking off of that was like literally the next question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Piggybacking off of that, you have your own imprint now, Sharp Edge Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And you're pretty much self-taught when it comes to writing comics. Chaotic Flux was your first writing gig in comics, and that's how you got your start. When did you decide you wanted to make a business at it?
Well, it was more like, okay, so I knew I wanted to make Chaotic Flux and get it out there to people, and I knew I wanted to be an ongoing series. But I had, ideas for other stories that I've been slowly developing in my head as well over the past few years, and writing things down. So it was like I knew I wanted to do other IPs. I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to do them. So it was just kind of like, well, I'll go ahead and make the brand and then, build and see what happens. But now I'm definitely getting something, man. I'm definitely getting, I've developed some things that I have coming down the pipeline. So it is now feeling more like, okay, yeah, this is going to be, like I said, a brand or a house of creations coming from me,
Yeah, you're really
and
developing it
other
into a
and
studio.
artists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you going to
yeah.
be using the same people on these forthcoming projects? Or are you going to diversify your, like, I hate the word, but like your stable of artists?
Right. I want to do at least another project with the guys that are working on Chaotic Flux. Actually, Brian Berlando, my illustrator, he loves drawing horror type stuff, and his horror art. I mean, the Chaotic Flux stuff looks great, but his horror stuff. I mean, not that I'm saying like because Chaotic Flux has horror in it because of Dread Fiends and stuff, but he has a really cool style too, where he just goes and draws straight up horror things, and I think it looks amazing. And I would love to do just a straight up horror book with him at some point. So there's that. I'm just not sure exactly what it's going to be yet. But my next project I am going to get a different artist, because while I'm working on it, I plan for my Chaotic Flux team to be working on issue 4 while I'm working on this other thing as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
so
that's
you get
awesome.
you get the script kind of hammered out, slide it over to Brian. He'll do the line work. And you got Brian Nene on colors and Janelle Murphy on the letters. You're gonna keep going with them, just kind of keep the cohesiveness of what people have come to expect from the book.
Yeah, and my team, particularly Brian Belando, my illustrator, like he really enjoys doing this book. He loves drawing monsters, big robots, and crazy action and all this stuff. So and I keep feeding him this stuff, so he just keeps loving it. And he keeps telling me that I'm doing the book for as long as you want me to, man. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but so far it looks like this is my team for the foreseeable future. So yeah, just the other book that I have planned, it's actually I'm planning for it to be more of a manga type style, mixed with a little more so manga mixed with some Western style to it, but more so on a manga style. But yeah, I still have to find an artist on that one, and so it's a while down the road. I would say I'm looking at possibly doing that one. I'm shooting for the end of this year or beginning of next year, so we'll see.
That's great.
Yeah.
I really want to see more variety come out of your studio. I think it'd be wonderful to see like what other things you can dabble with and how those products will be envisioned by you and your team. So how did you put the team together? Where did you come into contact with the Bryans, Belando and me?
Well, I put out a wanted ad or a talent search ad, if you will, on DeviantArt and some other platforms that have like forums where you can do like kind of job searches in there. And I can't remember, it was like 100 and something applicants, but I zeroed in on a couple guys, including Brian. And Brian fit my price point and his talent. His art style was something I was actually I asked him, well, can you draw me something in this style? We designed what was the exosuit for Soren, the Reaper exosuit, and he drew it up for me, and I loved it. I was like, okay, you got the gig, man. And then he was friends with the colorist Rang Minahi, and they're real good buds in real life, and they worked on a number of projects in the past. And he recommended to me Brian, the one Brian recommended the other Brian, and
Council of
I
Brians.
saw his stuff. I fell in love with his colors. Very professional, very like on that Marvel or DC level. And I was like, yeah, man, your stuff's great. So let's do this. And especially, like I said, they worked together before, so they have the synergy already going together. And that's pretty much where that went. And then I had a letterer named Matt Bowers on the first issue, but things didn't work out after that with us or with him. So I was looking for another letterer. And my wife actually was looking at, the I guess what's the word I'm looking for? The art behind it, how to pull it off and how to do it. And, she started doing research with like Photoshop and stuff, learning how to do it. And she was like, you know what? I think I can do this. So I was like, yeah, you sure? She's like, yeah. You want to do it? She's like, yeah, I'm really liking it. I'm like, okay. So I was like, well, show me what you can do. And, I'll make my decision. And she, gave me great results. And I was like, okay, you're my letterer.
That's
So
awesome.
ever since then, my wife has been my letterer.
It's wonderful.
That's super cool.
Why don't we load up the campaign really quick so we can take a look at some of this art? And while we do that, when did you start working on Chaotic Flux? How long have you been, working on this vision of yours?
Right. Well, I've been slowly developing this story for a number of years. I want to say as many as 20 years.
This is the third installment, so you've done the first two already. They got funded and sent out. So clearly, you've been going since then, but it stretches back much further.
Yeah. So the first issue came out in 2018.
What's up, D-Wags?
And then I've been trying to do more than one issue a year, but so far it's been one a year. I'm hoping that I can get issue 4 out this year, but since I'm looking at this other project too that I really want to do, though that one's also, it's not going to be an ongoing series. It's going to be more like a graphic novel or just a few issues. Whereas Chaotic Flux is going to be, I've been saying about as many as 50 issues, but it could be less than that. I like I said, I've been developing the story for a number of years. I've got a lot of big ideas that I really want to get in there. So I know how it ends. I just got to get there.
Yeah, I'm glad that you do, because I really can't stand series that just drag on. One, because they're a profitable, good-looking series, and the creator just wants to keep running with his creations. And two, because they don't know where they're going with it, and they hadn't really envisioned that from the start. They were just more interested in the journey. I really like things that are designed to have a beginning, middle, and an end, and definitive arcs for the characters where they start one place and they end in another. It's very important to sort of bookend your story, so it's a complete tale.
For people out there,
makes it easier to write,
like wanting to be creators, or I've heard it a number of times before when I was sitting down and learning how to write scripts and how to be a storyteller, other than just writing down ideas. I heard it stressed a number of times, know where you're going. It's really the best way to go. Come up with your ending, decide where your characters are going to end up, where your storyline is going to end up, and then then bridge that across, and it makes it so much easier, because it's like, otherwise it's like kind of way how you put it, you're just kind of wandering around and hope you end up somewhere good.
I've found that anyone, whether you're talking about comic books or a book series or TV show that spans multiple episodes or
volumes.
Thank you, that's what I was looking for. When they don't have that end point in mind from the beginning, when they're not headed in that direction, they lose the thread, and the ending is never as satisfying as you hoped it would be, because they don't know how to get there.
If you're a writer, there are 3 types of writers. The first type write for the story, they write for the plot. The characters kind of become mechanisms through which to tell that story, and what they might not do as well as other writers is flesh those characters out, because they're focused on a streamlined story journey for the audience. But if you can flesh out the characters, give them their arcs, make them interesting, and write with them to the end point, you're very successful. The other type, they write for the characters, a meandering exploration of their journey through life, but they don't necessarily have an end point that they're going towards, so they're liable to just write themselves off of a cliff or put themselves in a corner. And the third type of writer is either one of those that doesn't like editors, so they're bad writers at that point. They just, they don't take criticism. So let's look at the campaign real quick. You're at 3,100 with 55. I can't really see. It's tiny.
So it's $3,108 with 65 backers and 5 days up.
That's pretty good. Why don't we load up some of the art, because I want to ask you, I think we made a PowerPoint out of this, right? I want to ask you more the world of Chaotic Flux, because when I first encountered this, I wasn't
you're cutting in and out. Okay.
I wasn't on board with 1 and 2. I missed them. This is my first encounter with Chaotic Flux.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I mean, the introduction's kind of chaotic. I got no idea what this thing is about.
Uh-huh.
I have an audio delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very bad audio delay.
All right.
I can hear myself.
Hold on, we're having
It's
some. I think
slowly
we
smoothing out.
lost Scott.
No, I can hear him.
Okay.
That might be the audio delay, though. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have him on my screen anymore.
I'm gonna restart StreamYard.
So we're gonna. Stream anymore.
Hey Scott, can you hear me at all?
Here.
No,
Yeah, I can hear
hey,
you.
sorry, we're having a little bit
I
of.
think we actually just come back in.
I unmuted myself, so we had a moment or two of technical difficulties. I am
That's cool.
switching to.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Unsettled
microphone.
Basically, our internet freaked out and started eating its own tail.
Okay, so yeah, we should all be. They're back on with
Better?
their video, and I have their audio.
All right.
And I can hear.
Well, now I can't hear you.
You took me out of the stream. You can't take me out of the stream because I have the mic now.
I see how it is.
She's muscling in.
All right, we have a hello to Elliot Rodriguez.
Oh, hey, what's up,
Elliot.
Elliot Rodriguez Art? Good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. So I was saying I haven't encountered the world of Chaotic Flux before.
Mhm.
This is my first experience with it. And so when I first came across the page, I was like, what is going on here? There's aliens and mechas, and I love both those things, don't get me wrong. But there's also like magic and like mutants. I don't know what's in this universe. And clearly it's been 2 issues, so other people already know.
Mhm.
Tell me what I'm about to get into when I get this thing. What's in your universe?
A lot. So like you just said, so Chaotic Flux centers on this team called the Crimson Flame, who are they're along the line of like X-Men or the Avengers, in terms of team type, superhero type team, and they unite in the future to rid the world of these mutant abominations taking over called Dread Fiends. The Dread Fiends are these life forms that were created by humanity through splicing of other life forms to create a food source. They're meant to be a food source. They start out very docile, very easy to control, and they're a food source for humanity in this dark future where a lot of environmental issues have ravaged the world, but also people are now fighting over resources and land for.
So this is literally when animals attack.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people have called them man-eating cows, but they do start to mutate on their own all of a sudden, and they're constantly evolving, and because they're constantly changing, they need a constant food source, a very rich and constant food source. So they start to turn against humanity and feed on them. They're actually able to eat people very rapidly. And when they do eat someone or something, it could be even animals, regular animals or whatever, when they feed on it, they can break it down as a biofuel and use that to self-mutate on the fly. So they can make themselves bigger, stronger, wings for flight, for instance, whatever they need to get the upper hand in battle. So they can also reproduce in this way, where they'll break something down, they will clone, well, it's in the sense to reproduce, really they clone themselves and they regurgitate that clone, and it quickly grows into an adult form. They'll also eat each other. That's an interesting dynamic that comes into the story where, so like if they're in a situation where they feel like whoever they're facing is a greater, opponent than them, then one of them might all of a sudden go, oh, well, get smarter, in that sense, and start killing his allies, eat them, so then he can use that as a food source to mutate and get better. So they're pretty elaborate. I designed them as this kind of super monster. I'm a big fan of like Resident Evil, for instance. I love the mutated monsters in that series. Or the movie The Thing. I love how that thing just kept constantly evolving in that way. Absorbing things and becoming other things. So those are definitely a big influence on these monsters. And then the team, the Crimson Flame, consists of, so far in the series, there's going to be 6 total members, but right now you have Zathara, who is an alien hybrid, and that's who you're seeing on the screen right now, her backside with those
this is the
crystal
cover of
blades
issue
in her
1,
arms.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a cover for issue 1. And you can get, like you said earlier, where, well, what if I missed out on the first 2? That's okay. You can totally get them in this campaign. There's 2 packages where you can get all 3 issues. You can also add on issue
Get
1
them
and
on
2.
the website, too.
I'm sorry?
We can get them on your website,
issue 1 and 2
too,
are also
right?
on the website right now. Yeah, on sharpedgecomics.com. And Zathara can form these crystal-like structures at will. She can use them for different. She mainly uses it for weaponry. So she'll make, like, there she has her arms turned into blades. She can make throwing daggers, axe blades. You'll see her use her abilities in new and interesting ways as the series goes on. I got a lot of big surprises with her. I'm sorry?
I said, I bet you she'd be great on Etsy. She'd have a great store. Yeah,
right?
Making crystals everywhere.
Crystal banners.
And then you mentioned mechas earlier, so we have Strife. He's a big transforming AI mecha. He's a big influence. Our Transformers is a big influence on him. Whereas he's able to transform different things. He can turn into like a ship mode or to transport the team around in, and various other things. He can also self-engineer. So as long as he has the materials to make it, he can make all kinds of different types of weaponry. He'll make stuff for the team as well. He's like a big backup unit. And then there's Soren, who's the leader of the Crimson Flame. That's the guy in the back there in the cover holding the rifle. He is actually an exosuit pilot. He fights this exosuit called the Reaper. That's all kinds of awesome weaponry. And then you see Lieutenant Vladik there in the back, the cyborg-looking guy. He actually is a cyborg, looking all menacing, half-dead and stuff.
I was going to ask you about your antagonists. We've got mutant, genetically engineered cows that eat people, which is awesome. But you've also got the lieutenant, right? I just lost my notes.
Lieutenant Vladik.
Yeah, I gotta say, I really love the cover of this. When I saw that image, I used it for the thumbnail for the stream, and I was like, all right, I have to have this chick with the scythe, the transformer looking dude, and then the evil bionic eye, like skull face. I was like, that's got to be in there as well. So like, I really dig that.
So that's Lieutenant Vladik back there, but he's really just a glorified errand boy for Thraxus Prime.
Yep.
Tell me about Thraxus Prime. That's a great name.
Thank you. Thraxus Prime. Okay, so there's this organization called the Order of the Purging Hand, and they're made up of a bunch of mercenaries, and they believe that anything not of Earth, not anything not natural, should be wiped out. That it's against God, if you will.
Oh boy, that's like everything.
So they've been pursuing Zathara and her kind for a number of years, trying to wipe them all out. But now in the present time, they're also fighting against the Dread Fiends. But they started out as not cyborgs. Like I said, they're a mercenary group. But the Thraxus Prime, there's a event that happens to him. We'll see that in issue 4. His origin story is going to be in that one, and it causes him or his organization to decide to turn him into a cyborg. Basically, he gets wrecked, and he's on the verge of death. And they decide to use this new nanotech technology they developed to turn him into a cyborg as a new weapon for them. And he learns how to utilize this nanotech, though, to his own advantage, to where then he can control it, and he can infect others and turn them into cyborgs as well. And he decides to take over the organization, and he infects his soldiers and turns them into cyborgs against their will. And Lieutenant Vladik becomes his right-hand man.
Though, right?
No,
That's
he's
just
not.
The lieutenant?
Yeah, you see him in issue 2. We get a little bit of him in issue 2. I introduce him in there, a little bit of a setup for him. But we will get a lot more of him in issue 4.
So this is art from issue 3, right? So he's not in here. We had a question earlier. Kat wants to know, what's the lumberjack drawing? I think maybe she was referring to the cover of issue 2. When we scroll back, that's probably just Zathara with a crystal axe. Yeah, that, right?
Yeah.
So she's making one of her crystal projections. She's an alien, and she's come to Earth. Is the battle taking place on Earth?
She's a hybrid, so she's half human and half Zakaran, and so the Zakarans in the storyline, I'm going to lay all that out. Eventually, like I said, there's a lot in here, but so 19 years in the past, the Zakarans came and they helped the humans survive an alien invasion from another alien race that was trying to wipe out humanity and basically rob us of our resources. But the Zakarans save us and scare off the other guys. Well, the other guys, the Krakaran, they decide to invade the Zakaran homeworld. So then, after this, we befriend the Zakaran befriended us and shared their technology with us, and things happened. Humans started getting with Zakarans and making hybrid babies. That's where we get Zathara. But the Zakarans went back to their homeworld to defend their homeworld from the invasion that's happening there, and they didn't want to take the children into a war-torn planet, so they decided it'd be safer to leave them on Earth. And the military took it under their responsibility to house and protect the children until the Zakarans returned.
That was very conscientious of them. Yeah. It's nice putting them up in like military barracks and stuff.
Especially since the Order Purging Hand is hunting them down. They knew of the organization, so they housing them in this facility called the Lateralus Research Facility, and they're housing them, but they're also studying the hybrid children, because some of them do have powers like Zathara, and so that's
this hybrid
the
arc
gist of all that.
It's giving me serious X-Files vibes.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's any inspiration.
Definitely, and in the X-Men, in terms of they're kind of like my version of mutants in this, where they're part human and they're half human, half alien, but some of the aliens do have powers, like some of the X-Men have powers. And that whole thing, where they
there's
the
interstellar travel. I had to ask.
Yeah.
So we've got other galaxies, and we've got travel between them. Does the Order of the Purging Hand want to go kill all of the other alien worlds, or are they just worried about Earth?
They're just worried about Earth. They're kind of they kind of piece themselves together too. You'll see with their ships and their technology, they kind of just they're scrappers a lot. They're pretty well organized, but they're not I guess super a super.
They don't have an invasion force.
So they don't have an invasion force. They're not a really big force there, because they're very secretive. They're very selective about their organization, who they bring in their organization. Because when Thrax's Prime turned his soldiers into the cyborgs, they were guys that he already knew. He already knew they were trusted. Well, they were good soldiers in his organization, so they're the ones that he turned. So there's some limitation there with them on that, but that's another thing too with the series. The alien invasion that happened before, a lot of Earth's forces or galactic forces were wiped out during that war. So interstellar travel has become very limited for humanity at this point. They're rebuilding ships and working on rebuilding that fence force. So if it's something else like that does happen again, but it is taking a while for them to build back up.
So this is all kind of backstory of the setting that makes them so exposed to this new kind of mutating organism, I guess, that is really the main antagonist here, right?
Right. Well,
it'd be interesting. You have the setting for a prelude story where you could explore Zathara's parents or whatever.
Yeah,
we're
gonna get into that.
This almost reminds me of that anime. There's was it Blue Gender? I think, where it was kind of like a weird mutating organism that took over Earth, and I think there's like a space station that they tried to like use as a base to reconquer Earth from. I mean, I think it's as cool as hell, man. You got so much story going on here.
Yeah. You got a lot of stuff going on in your world. I actually wanted to ask you, building off of that, a lot of people try and make distinguishing lines between science fiction and fantasy. And a very common example is like Star Trek versus Star Wars. People say that Star Trek is much more sci-fi, Star Wars is a lot more fantasy. It seems like your story incorporates somewhat more fantastical elements. Do you lean more towards Star Trek or Star Wars?
Neither. I love them both equally, honestly. Yeah. I would say I used to be more, when I was younger, I was more into Star Wars because, Star Wars is, I think, easier to get into for young people because it is, more fantastical and more action oriented, whereas Star Trek is, more complex. And I'm not saying Star Wars isn't complex. It's just,
no, I get what you mean.
A lot of the sci-fi, the like when you're dealing with like emotional stuff and I don't know. It's just there's other elements to it that make it Star Trek complicated in different ways, whereas Star Wars is complicated in other ways, especially when you get with the Force or get into the Force and how deep it goes. But right. But yeah, as an older, now, over the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, I'm pretty well equal on the two. I'm older now to where I can appreciate Star Trek a lot more, especially like Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
I love that answer.
Nine.
Yeah. That's a good answer in general.
Yeah, the older you get, the more you can really appreciate the more rigid science backbone of Star Trek, which is, there are great stories done in front of that as a backdrop. No. But that backdrop can be a barrier for some people, whereas the more like loose fitting science fiction in Star Wars is a little bit more accessible for younger kids because you don't have to worry about what the hell a dilithium crystal is.
I mean, on the face value, right? Like, Star Wars is exciting because it's like laser swords. Wow. And, like that, people can get really into it just based on laser swords versus like Star Trek.
Star Trek gets more into like the sciencey stuff, it gets more into like physics.
And there's nothing that like jumps out at you and like visually that just grabs you. So
it's much more vibrant in its portrayal. The other thing is like kids will run around. They want to play like Pilot of the Millennium Falcon and pew 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 flying around on the playground. No kid's going to be.
Well, especially too, like in Star Wars, you got the more radical characters, like Darth Vader and Palpatine, and these like outrageous characters that just really they capture your imagination. And
I'm gonna say hey to Jake Twister. Welcome to the stream, brother.
What's up, Jake?
What's up, man? Yeah, so definitely middle ground for those two nowadays.
Let's talk about the physical book itself. Chaotic Flux #3 is a relentless 30-page full-color comic. The art is really something in this.
Relentless.
It says relentless.
Did you put that, or is that your doing? That's awesome.
He calls it relentless. It is a relentless comic book.
I like that pairing of words.
Yeah.
Aaron does good pairings of words, so I was asking if it was his, but I like the fact that you got good pairings of words too.
It's a really well-crafted sense to sell the comic. The art's really something. Did you devise this look yourself, or did you really work closely with Brian Belando to come up with the way things are drawn?
Definitely what you just said. It was more of a collaboration and coming up with a look. I mean, I had my head how I wanted certain things to look, but there are certain details I wasn't like quite sure how to do this or that. Also, some of the stuff like sometimes you imagine things and it seems like awesome in your head, but then when you put it down on papers, at times it's like, oh, that didn't turn out quite what I was thinking. But so I'll give you an idea of like how me and Brian design a lot of stuff. I'll tell him the basic idea what I'm going for, and then I'll go online and find parts of different things that I like. It's like, for instance, when we were designing the Reaper exosuit, and I was taking different like Gundam design and other and mecha and stuff, and like, okay, I like this part in the head on this one, I like this part of the shoulders on this one, and so on and so forth. And I said, well, I'm going for this idea, and this is all the different like details I like. Can you, of course, don't copy it, but take that and make it close.
Evoke these things that I see that really make me
Right. And the one of the ways I like to describe it is he'll take that, throw it in a blender, and then you mean like this? And I'm like, yeah, that's Now sometimes like the Dread Fiend went through a couple of designs, but he was pretty close. He was pretty spot on the first try, and then we just tweaked him a little bit. And one of the things I told him with the Dread Fiends too was, okay, imagine walking down a dark alley and you hear something and you turn around, you see the most horrific thing you can imagine, to where it will make you want to run the other way and never look back. And that was one of the big descriptions for him, and I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love this panel in the middle. You don't see this that much in comic books anymore, but this is a throwback to the old days of 90s comics and earlier, where you'd have a solid pose, then transitional positions that are sort of more transparent, and then the final pose. And it gives like a sense of motion to the book. I really like the fact that you did that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love playing with that type of stuff.
How do you write that in a script? Because I haven't been able to write that yet.
Well, what I often will say in the script to Brian is I'll use the word motion effect. That's kind of the gist of how I describe it, and he plays with it in a couple. That's one way he'll do it, what you see there, but he does it another way as well. But I think we've done it this way, I would say, more often. Yeah, that was what he'll come up with, and so my original vision, or actually I should say, when I imagine Chaotic Flux in my head, when I imagine the scenes, the events that happen in my head, it's motion. It's like I see it as like an animation or live action, and I mean for this book to be very visual, and I mean I would love to be able to do like an animated version of it one day, but until we get there, I really want to have motion in the book fairly often. So that's another element I like playing with, like we were talking about earlier, playing with different things as a storyteller. I try to incorporate that feeling of motion, even though it's a 2D image. You get that kind of like animated step-by-step motion there. But also like motion blurs. I like using those a lot to show motion, especially like you're swinging a weapon and stuff like that.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but pick up Daniel Warren Johnson, Murder Falcon.
He's got the lines.
Okay.
Yeah,
look at Murder Falcon just as reference material,
Okay.
And you can send your artist, be like, check out this panel here. I love how this is happening. If you can kind of evoke that, awesome. Because his motion lines in that, and like just dynamism of some of the panels is
his bold line work when it's in the foreground and it's in motion. He does this really neat effect where he makes the line work actually seem like it's vibrating. It's really cool.
Wow.
I'm just gonna push Aaron to be a Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah, well,
channel.
When you just start dating someone, or like you just get into a relationship, or if you have a friend who's just started dating someone and got into a relationship, you'll just be talking about whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend does this," or "Oh yeah, we were in the grocery store. Oh yeah, she was looking at It's kind of like that with Garrett right now. Everything is Daniel Warren Johnson.
It's awesome,
and I do not begrudge it because Daniel is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But it's everything is Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah, I'll do that with friends too, over certain things, like a certain show I saw or something like that. Like I watched the first episode of Invincible the other night, And then ever since I've been telling my friends, like, you gotta watch the show. It's so badass.
I love that comic. I haven't watched the show yet. Are they doing it justice?
Yes, it's really, really cool. I mean, the animation's fantastic. They're nailing like the emotions between the characters. It's great.
Yeah.
Have you read the book? The father and the son. I have not. No, I keep meaning to, but I have.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Things happen that I don't want to spoil.
I take that back. I have read parts of the book online, but I haven't read. I think I read like the first 2 issues. Yeah, it was the first 2 issues.
I'm not quite sure what he means. Maybe he means that in our comic.
I think having things look right and like motion relies on me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is absolutely true.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what you mean.
You and me, Scott, we've got this hashtag just a writer thing going on. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's just our story. It's just our words. Everything is on them.
Right.
Do you also chain your artist up in the basement?
No.
Actually, good question. Where is your artist located?
The Philippines.
Okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm. So how's the communication between you guys? Like, I mean, that's all digital,
good.
right?
I mean, I've never actually, spoken to him, but we talk through Messenger. Wow. And
and the book looks this good.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It works really well, man. Like, I was surprised too. I wasn't sure how well it was going to work at first, but it's been great.
Was there any language barrier stuff?
No, there's a little bit with the colorist. He doesn't understand English quite as well, as the other guy, but he still, it still works out. I mean, I might have to come tell him something a couple times, but it's not that bad.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
That's really cool.
Because he's also Filipino, so
that's awesome that you got such a good relationship with an artist that you haven't had a chance to meet face to face or anything like that.
Yeah, we'll talk from time to time. Like, one day we really need to meet up somewhere and just hang out, just because, I mean, we've become pretty good friends over the years working on this book. And
naturally,
it'd be great to just like sit down, have a beer together sometime, but got to work all that out. He's got to fly over. I got to fly over there or whatever. So maybe one day.
Up in the middle.
Yeah.
Bring up the campaign one more time so that we can go through some of these tiers real quick. I've generally now moved away from looking at each individual tier because it's kind of boring when you're going through a campaign to look at all the things that if I'm going to go back it, I will figure out for myself.
Right.
So why don't you just tell us some of the stuff you're offering to backers? Because I know there is metal.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of metal.
Awesome, man.
So let me.
I've actually learned that we have a lot in common tonight.
Huge fan of metal, dude. Our book, we're gonna do metal. All right, so scroll down some.
I wasn't sure if you added me, so I had to check.
Yeah, I added you.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't see. So.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, just keep going. Go down to where it starts listing some of the items. In fact, why don't you just, I'll turn this over to you, Scott.
Okay.
You lead the way.
Okay, so of course you can get the PDF if you want, and you can add on issue 1 and 2 the PDF. Then there's the physical copy that is either signed or unsigned, and you can add on the physical copy or the PDFs to those two of issue 1 and 2. I usually do, or I plan to keep doing it every campaign, but I do a metallic cover version of the book, but this time I decided to do 3 metallic versions, so you can get the the metallic version, so I guess you say the original metallic version, so it's the original cover but with a metallic cover. And there's also the virgin variant, so that's just the cover art, no logo or anything like that, just the cover art in metallic. And then there's also the metallic line art edition. So it's just the line art, no colors, with a silver background. And these covers are actually going to have an iridescent effect to them. So when you move them in the light, they'll change color. They'll do like a rainbow effect. And I think it's going to look fantastic in all 3, but particularly I think it's going to look great on that line art edition with that silver background. I think it's going to pop more with those colors.
Yeah, line art covers tend to not be as exciting as like a vibrant color. By the way, the colorist on this is phenomenal. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
gotta say, like, the line art's good, but the colors really pop. They have an
Mhm.
incredible luster to them. They almost shine on the page. So definitely spicing up the line art cover variant
You're
with
doing
with
it
the metal
metal?
covers.
That's
Making
really
it metal
smart.
is probably going to be a great
And
way to
cheap
go.
too.
Yeah,
A metallic cover for $20.
Mhm.
I think we did the $50 tier with the T-shirt and all that other stuff, and the ketchup tier or as add-ons. I think we did ketchups as add-ons. Which, by the way, thank you so much for doing. I mean, for me, there's nothing more frustrating than wanting to get into a cool IP like this and not having the beginning.
Right.
Offering us a way to access the story from the beginning is definitely going to get my money.
Do you plan on when you get to like 5 issues? Do you plan on doing like a actual like trade?
Yeah, I'm looking at that idea. Doing a trade up, like you said, after so many. And I think it's gonna it'll be either around issue 4 or 5. I'll be doing that. And it'll be you'll have a new cover art just for that edition. And I'm looking at the idea too of because the guy that does my metallic covers, he said that he can do a sleeve because he can't. He said that he doesn't trust the machine printing a thick book with a metallic cover. He doesn't think it would line up right. But he said that he can print metallic sleeves to go over it, which I think that's a fun idea to still get a metallic cover. So I'm looking at that as an as an add-on item or a version of it with that on there. And then there's metallic trading cards in this campaign too. There's going to be 2 character trading cards you can get. One is of Lieutenant Vladik, one is of the Super Dread Fiend. And there's both a non-metallic and a metallic version of the cards. There's also a non-metallic art print that you get certain packages, but also a metallic art print. The non-metallic art print will be of the cover art. Just the cover art, no logo or anything. And then the metallic art print is going to be a select piece of art that I'm still waiting to get all the art in from the book. We're almost done with the pages. I think we've got 6 more pages to complete. And when I get all the art from my illustrator, then I'll choose which one will be the metallic print. And on the metallic covers, there's some packages where you can choose which one you want. And then there's other ones where you can get all 3 if you like. Like for instance, the one that's all 3 $60, I believe. So pretty good for 3 metallic covers there. And like you were showing there's a T-shirt that you can get, and it's of the cover art.
Mask and a hat, separate tiers.
And there's a face mask of Zathara facing off against Dread Fiends from the arts from issue 1, and then the hat I'm wearing now with the Reaper exosuit on the side, and then the logo. That's also available in the campaign.
Yeah, that hat.
I think it turned out great.
Yeah, we were just saying that in pre-show that I got to get myself a hat like that. I like hats, and
while you're on that, I'll show you the
T-shirt
too. I'm actually wearing the
T-shirt across the top.
Also, can I just say, Dread Fiend is such a perfectly campy name for like horrible mutating like monsters.
Thank you.
I love the fact that it's called Dread Fiends.
It's interesting. Well, you'll see as the right now in the series, they haven't been named Dread Fiends yet. It's kind of like something the team just comes to deciding to call them that because of the more they learn about them. One of the elements about the Dread Fiends is that they are actually addicted to fear. So hence the name Dread Fiend is where that actually comes
that
from.
is awful.
Yeah. So that's kind of how they hunt their prey and decide what's the easiest prey to go after. The scaredest, the person or whatever it is they're looking at as food. The more fearful it is, they go after that more than because they think it's going to be, because you're too shucking up with fear. You're just going to be like and things.
Is that like a pheromones thing, or is that like kind of like more esoteric, or is that something you don't want to reveal yet?
They see the fear. It's like an aura around people. You see it issue 2 when so issue 2 centers on Zathara trying to save an innocent family from becoming a Dread Fiend's next meal. And the family that's trying to get away from the creature, they're terrified because this thing's coming after them. And that's the one thing I liked playing with too in terms of art style is his point of view. There is a few moments in the book in the series so far where you see through Zathara's eyes. In particular, there's a moment in issue 3, and I think there's all 3 issues so far. I have a moment where you see through her point of view, and then in issue 2 and 3, you see with the Dread Fiends how they see. But in particular, in issue 2, you'll see when it's watching the family, and there's an aura around them. Whereas when it's looking at Zathara, she doesn't have the aura around her because she's like a warrior type. So she's fearful of the thing, but she's more confident.
Cool. So actually
she's
being
more
a
confident in
badass
herself.
and being brave gives you total edge against fighting these things.
It reminds me of the old Predator movie. Like you would look through the Predator's eyes. I really liked that because it gave me a sense of standing in the Predator's shoes and seeing how this alien monster sees our world and how it would prey upon it. I mean, that was just heat vision, but in your case, a fear aura definitely gives me more of a feel for what the Dread Fiend sees when it looks at people and what's delicious and what's not. I'm looking forward to the visual effects on that. So I have to ask you, while we're coming up on our hour mark here, why crowdfunding?
Well, I was looking at getting picked up by a publisher. Before I even thought about doing crowdfunding, I submitted the book to a few platforms, and I got a few bites, particularly Action Lab Comics. They almost picked up the series. We're really close, and they were trying to make a decision, and they came back to me and said, well, actually, we were talking to our marketing team, and to be honest with you, we're not sure how to market this thing. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, it's really complex. It's like, oh, okay. So they said, contact us in a year and we might pick it up then. It's just, that's another thing too. They said it wasn't going to fit into their, what they had planned for the coming year as far as the books and how they want to do their marketing. Projects. So I was like, okay. But then I started doing research on crowdfunding and trying to figure out how to make it work and all these things. And I started, the more I learned from it, the more I started getting confident that, I can make this work. I can, just crowdfund it. So, I decided to give it a shot and issue 1 did not get fully funded. It got pretty close. But I still fulfilled, because that was, my goal. I just wanted to get the book out there and get, build interest and get people, into the series. And then issue 2, we did overfund. I asked for 4,000, just like I am this one, and it went to 6,000 something. Yep, by the time it was done. So, that was the gist of it. I'm not opposed to getting picked up at this point too, but I'm still. I feel like things are going pretty good. And
you have your own imprint.
Yeah,
you offer your own merch.
That's another thing too. That's another thing that was kind of like because I was like, well,
honestly,
if I go with someone else, then I can't say okay, Chaotic Flux is a Sharp-X Comics book and that sort of thing.
No, I'm all for supporting independent titles that creators themselves own through their own business. I very much prefer that to something like a comic book studio type. I like Alterna, and there are others that that are groups that are putting out books that are creator owned, and that's fantastic. Strength in numbers, I get it, but there's something about a creator owned studio where it's just that dude's work, or the people that whoever owns the studio decides to work with. It's so hard for me to do this with like the reverb in my ear. Keep hearing myself talk. That makes that just that much more of an enjoyable experience. I was going to say, you do offer the back issues on your website, so you sell those directly also, which was, I get crowdfunding sort of pays for the printing up front, and whatever you don't sell, you keep on your website and you can offer that way, which seems like a smart way to do it. But your goals have all been flexible. You've set them fairly high, 4,000, 6,000 on Indiegogo. Those are not simple numbers to hit. If they're flexible, why put a goal up that high?
Well, I've been debating for a while on whether to, go low or go high, and I haven't. I guess I'd have to test it more, and I haven't. And I have to be brave enough too to test it. So far, I've just been. I felt like the 4,000 is okay. I just feel like if I go lower, I have a fear that people are going to be like, okay, well, that's all he wanted. I don't have to keep trying to get him more. I don't have more people don't have to say, okay, well, but that's the thing though, too. Like I'm trying to build, a fan base to where people will just want the book and not have to, look at it that way that I had just described. I've heard people, tell me before, set it, lower, set it, 500. I know a lot of people do 500 or 1,000. But it's just kind of like that middle ground for myself where I feel like it's going to get funded, but, people still will, maybe go over that.
So the thing about Indiegogo, unlike Kickstarter, you don't have to hit your goal for funding if you go flexible. And one of the ways to kind of exploit the system is to set a goal really low and then fund 1,000% over your goal. So you're at 3K. If you'd set yourself at, 1,000, you'd be 300%, over where you started.
And I do think about that too. Like, does that make it look good? Is it worth doing?
Thing out there.
Right. Is it worth doing that? Maybe in the next one I'll experiment with that, but I don't know. I have to see more research, I guess, more like, why didn't you opt for? Oh, you mean like a package? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, like a PDF 1 through 3 kind.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can get so if you click on issue 3 PDF, you can add on the other 2.
I just want to take a second and say,
I get what they're saying.
Travis Gibb. I didn't get a chance to break Mr. Gibb. He has come to grace us with his presence. All glory be to Travis Gibb. Welcome to the stream.
Welcome.
Well, some glory. Some glory. Not all of it.
A good amount, all right?
We'll have a deed.
But there's a little bit of debate on that
wisdom to him too.
All right.
Just a little bit of glory.
Still make him challenge for rank.
Yeah, there's been some debate on that for a while, I think, on whether you should set it low or set it high, and I'm not really sure which is the better way.
As far as the stuff that you offer on the campaign, you were saying people look at it and go, oh, okay, that's all he wanted. We don't have to push it. Dude, you offered me metal. I backed you at $67.
Right.
I backed what I wanted on the campaign, regardless of what the goal is.
Right.
So that's the way I look at it. I know I'm not a normal person. I've been told by a lot of people I'm very weird.
Nothing is normal.
Nothing is normal with me.
True.
But I look at something, I go, that's what I want. I'm not even looking at the number of whether or not they're going to meet their goal or not meet their goal. I'm looking at what they're offering me that I can buy. And I was super excited by the options on your campaign. It's like, he has everything that I want. He's got metal covers, metal prints, t-shirts.
Since you asked me that question, I'll ask you the same thing. What would you, how would you do it? Go one way or the other?
Well, I'll tell you what we're planning to do. We're planning to go around 1,000. There was debate about going to 500, but we don't really want to go that low. We are going to go flexible.
Okay.
The reason to set it at 1,000 is like, okay, that was a monetary goal that was worth hitting. Hey, look, everybody, we expected to raise 1,000. We're not too worried about printing costs yet. Like, our budget isn't too constrained, and we really just want to put the book out and put out some great stuff.
No matter what.
What's that? Yeah, we're making the book no matter what. It's just how many bells and whistles are we going to stick on it?
Right.
I really want to do metal. I really want to do figures.
Well, I mean, because y'all are friends, you don't have to worry about like, do you do okay, I'm going to pay you this much to do these pages, or?
Well, the way that I've heard other creators do it, and Kami Mark actually has a formula for this. It's like a winning formula on how to set your goal and how to be successful in funding your crowdfunder. And it's very simple. Don't ask me what it is because I don't remember. So information in one ear, right out the other. But basically what he says is figure out how much it is for your artist to do the book. Settle paying the artist first.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Get it done. Now they've made all their money. You don't have to worry about whether or not the book's getting done. Set your goal at what it costs you to pay the artist plus 2 issues. That's your goal. Everything after that is profit. So, that's the way he kind of figured the printing would go.
Right. And we also figured, being that it's our first time out of the gate and we're, building an audience and building rapport with people, but, it's still our first comic book. We figured $1,000 was a reasonable goal for a first timer.
We're also completely losing money on this. Like, we're not making any money. We're going into the red to make this book. We're pretty much figuring number 2 might bring us out of the hole.
Right. Well, that's kind of how it was with issue 1. I was like, it'd be great, if it makes a profit, but if it doesn't, like I said, I just wanted to get it done and out there to people, and see, how many people were interested in it, get it out there and, share, much with the world as much as I could. And then also, I was looking at trying to, as I keep going along, grow a reputation of someone who I do fulfill.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I get it out pretty quick after the campaign's done. Like this one, issue 3 is actually right now is looking at shipping out in May. So couple months, and actually, wait, we're in April now. Yeah. So 1 more month.
And I mean,
we
like,
are that close to completion.
$4,500 on number 1 isn't little. Neither is $5K on issue 2.
Mm-hmm.
You're pulling in good numbers. These are not like chintzy little campaigns. Oh, he only made $500. No, you're making thousands, and there's a lot of interest and demand for your book. So I think you can afford to give yourself a little bit of going a little low to get Indiegogo to do the advertising for you. Because you start trending on the main page if you're over goal by a higher percentage, and people go, what's this? What's Chaotic Flux? He's got metal covers.
I think the thing that we're discovering, or at least one of the things that we're looking at, is the most valuable thing in crowdfunding is getting people to recognize you, know that you're a thing, have people follow you, so that when you announce something, people are attracted to it, right? Just the sheer numbers of it.
I'm looking at that more and more.
and
you're in issue 3,
and so
no.
When we're talking about the idea of do I set a low number or do I set a higher number, really we are all kind of just speculating about what's going to get more attention, because
No, we still got it.
Okay, there we go.
You can hear us?
No, he can hear it.
No,
I can hear you now.
just my
You
audio.
cut out for a minute.
Let's go back up to the top, refresh it, see if we got anywhere. Help him out.
This is where we were at the beginning, and 3,108 with 65 backers. And drum roll. Hey!
Oh, nice.
Did we get anything?
Yeah.
Very cool.
2 backers, 67
Nice.
backers.
Thank you.
Excellent.
For a total of
That's a good jump.
3,373. That's a good number.
Slowly grinding for more people,
Yep.
right?
Long live the frequency finesse.
A little bit closer, a little bit closer.
So where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter, I'm at Flux Chaotic, and then on Instagram, it's Chaotic Flux 1. And you can also go to sharpedgecomics.com, and there's a lot more stuff on Chaotic Flux there. All the trailers are on there. There's previews for all 3 issues. You can also get issue 1 and 2 on there, and there's a link to the spring, what is it called? Teespring store, where you can get more shirts and different merch on there. I
believe I'm
forgot to mention earlier in this campaign too. So my previous campaigns, I just had the T-shirt as far as merch items, and it was locked into the last tier, the final or the top tier. But I decided to get more flexibility this time, where you can add on the T-shirt, the hat, or the mask, or all 3, whatever you want to do it, to any of the physical tiers. So if you just wanted to get the unsigned issue, but you also wanted the T-shirt, you can totally do that. You just got added on.
Smart move. Definitely think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So as an experienced creator, you've got 2 issues under your belt. You're doing the 3rd. It's going out regardless of whether or not you meet your 4K goals. So you pretty much can say you've got your 3rd issue under your belt as well. You've been on panels at conventions to talk about your comics and your experience in the industry, your experience in comics. What kind of advice do you have for first-time creators or fledgling artists who are looking to break into the indie comic industry?
Well, know that, I mean, I know some people will think that, it's going to be easy. It's going to be, you're going to be making lots of money in no time or whatever. But I guess it depends on too, if you're into doing this, for money, just to be a creator. I'm more so doing it to get my creations out there and be a creator. It'd be nice if the books make money, but if not, I'm happy with just getting them out there, everybody. But for those who do think that, this is going to be something that, they're just going to make a lot of money and, be the next, Todd McFarlane or whatever overnight, that's not at all how it goes. It's hard work. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of determination.
I think you're cutting out a little bit.
Might be us again.
So I keep going. But yeah, so just know that it takes a lot of learning.
You cut out a little bit. So.
Should I log back in or?
There's lag. There's lag between YouTube and stream.
No, I think we have you again. I don't know if it's us. We have a new modem coming. It was supposed to arrive today. It did not arrive today, so I don't know if that's the problem that we're having or what.
So don't expect to make a lot of money.
Well, I mean, what I'm trying to say is stick with it. If you really want to do this, there's going to be down days. There's going to be up days. Don't get discouraged by that. Just keep going. Try, one of the main things I would say too is like you said earlier, you got to build yourself a platform. You got to get yourself out there. You can't be, I know I was at first, I'm more of an introvert on a lot of levels to where, I didn't want to do shows at first. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but you get used to it. At least I have. But you definitely have to get yourself out there. You have to get yourself known. Definitely, if you can start a YouTube channel like you guys have done, totally do that. And come up with ways to to attract people to you. And a good way to do that is, talk about things that you're into, like comic books, video games, whatever it is, and draw those people in, and then introduce to them your creations and get them interested in that the best way you can. But like I said, it's not an overnight thing. It's going to take time. But if you just stay focused, you can do it.
Good art of almost naked women helps too.
That's true. Yeah, it's funny because I see so many campaigns that are just most of what is on the campaign page is half naked women, and it funds overnight. It's geez.
No, I'm serious. It's scary.
So now I'm
on Kickstarter, and there was a rash of just mostly naked women on the covers of these books, and they were selling out left and right. What's the name of the guy who does the Jamie Tyndall?
Oh yeah,
the Jamie Tyndall campaign. He blew it out of the water in the first day.
Very sexy ladies, naked ladies.
But everybody likes naked ladies. So.
Sure.
And also, I guess just to piggyback on your last point about making money, let's remember that quality and profit are not synonymous. It was Mark Hamill who said this, and I will always go back to it. Profitable does not mean good, right?
It's true.
And good doesn't necessarily mean successful. So you got to aim for good, hope it's going to be successful, and pray that it makes money.
Well, the main reason why I'm trying to make any profit is so I can, keep doing more projects. That's the main goal for me is, more money that I can make off of Chaotic Flux and other things, the more I can put back into my brand, and give more to people. especially like
that's exactly what we want to
giving
see
more
out of the
items to
studio.
people too, not
Yeah.
just more books, but more merch that people might be into as well. And
New
so
IP.
forth.
I love hearing that attitude from a comic creator, because honestly, that's one of the questions he asked in the beginning is why comics? And, I think you really got to love it. You got to love putting your story out in a weird format where it's pictures and words. There's so many easier ways to just make a couple bucks.
Right. Well, I mean, you could just write a novel, I guess, but then you don't have that visual medium, which is something I'm tossing around as an idea too, because a lot of people that are friends of mine or people I've met at conventions are like, well, I like the idea, but I don't read comics. I read novels. So if you had a novel, I would totally get it. So, maybe that'd be another way of, making more fans, or I think definitely would be a way. I just gotta like get myself to sit down and make a novel version.
Yes, full on me real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if
his second one kicked off today. His second one kicked off today.
Yeah, it did. It just kicked off today.
Red Sun.
I mean,
that's
what
too.
it's all about.
Actually gonna be on a
Like,
show
if you're
on,
going to do a book for people to read, go big, go novel size, then release an illustrated companion. You get more time to work on the art to release something. So it works.
Well, that's something else I'm looking at too, because it takes longer to make a comic as far as with a novel, you can just sit and write. Whereas a comic, you got to write a script and then get the artist to do everything.
It's a team
so
effort.
that's something else I'm looking at too, as possibly as a way of getting more of the story out for those who do read novels out sooner, and then have the comic book catch up. I don't know, and that to me too, I'm looking at as well as if I'm writing the novel, that will also allow me to flex more as a story writer as I'm writing that and putting that into the comic book. Now I already know what I'm going to do here. I've already thought it out. I got novel format and as we're doing the comic, but I don't know, just things have been tossed around in my head. Looking at different advantages of doing different things in different ways
of getting your stories out there.
Yeah.
But remember, if you're going to be doing that, you're going to be needing to do it out of your own studio that you founded rather than trying to get someone else to publish it. Are you going to publish both the comic and the book, Mr. Publisher? That isn't me.
Right. Exactly.
So I think we've gone a little bit more than an hour and 20. We should probably wrap it up here.
Okay.
Is there anything, final words that you want to say to the audience?
Well, I would say, thank you for joining us. And I'm, so great to have you guys here. And if you love stories like the X-Men, if you love stories like Battle Chasers, the Avengers, if you love the monsters of Resident Evil, big robots like Gundam and Transformers, and dark storytelling, dark elements, storytelling, stories that focus on characters that where they're being tested to their absolute limits of survival, and both absolute limits, both also are physically, mentally, and if you enjoy stories with strong character growth, then you're gonna love Chaotic Flux. It pulls no punches. It's just a big badass epic adventure, and I cannot wait to share more of this with everybody out there. Also, awesome. Would you mind playing the trailer real quick?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
The epic mega sci-fi saga Chaotic Flux continues in issue number 3, Relentless. Drawn and colored by Brian Milano and Brian McKnight. Written by Scott Payne and lettered by Janelle Brewer. Relentless jumps right in from where we left off. Zathara must give it her all like you've never seen before to become this titan of new mega. Though it could prove to be a bigger problem for a young heroine is Lieutenant Black, as he waits for the right moment to capture Zathara for his twisted cyborg overlord, Thrax's Prime. Sword, Strike, and Zathara unite for the first time in the gaming super team, the Crimson Flame. Plus, a bloody showdown in Lateralus. All this and more packed in 30 pages of relentless sci-fi action and suspense. Don't miss out on Chaotic Flux number 3, Relentless.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. Yeah, we actually meant to play it before I had it all queued up, ready to go.
Yep. So if you want a dark sci-fi horror fantasy book that bends genre boundaries in a exhibition of total chaos and carnage, go sign up for Chaotic Flux. So no, you already signed up. So go back Chaotic Flux. All right. Well, we're gonna say, don't forget to like, subscribe. Please help us grow this channel. Click the bell for notifications and tune into the frequency. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.